Yeah, cheers, man. Yeah, it has been. I mean, I know back in the early days, we were part of tons of groups, right? And then I think those groups just naturally branch themselves out into people that feel the same way about certain things, or builders, and people in finance. And I think you and I have popped up in quite a few of these little spaces, and that actually is literally how the project in its earliest form began. It really was just after months of just talking and basically just chat and Telegram, people start realizing what it is you do, and okay, he's a UI dev, and he does this and he understands finance, and it literally was born from that. We just a bunch of us were roped into a small group, and from there, it was a case of thinking, okay, well, it seems like there's a problem to be solved here. And I'll be honest, back then, it was, we didn't know really how we would do it or if it was even possible. But we sort of went around in circles a bit, thinking, how could we approach this, realizing that the previous anchor contract was and is, well, I mean, was going to be a challenge. Not anymore, of course, but you know, it was sort of it was a proof of concept. A bunch of us got together and knocked up what was the first version, which I'm sure a few of you on this call would have seen. And I hate to say we got lucky from a dip, but it is the truth. There was that really big crash in, I think, May, was it? And it sort of validated this whole idea, which was handy. Obviously not handy. I mean, we're all Luna holders, and it was equally painful. But what it did for us in particular is it did make us realize, okay, hang on, there is something here. People made a lot of money. Of course, they had to really fight hard. They were literally fighting bots. So I think the people that gained it, or that used it cleverly, were going back 7-8 pages in the book, and sniping these loans, because that's how it worked back then. You actually had to target a bad loan and quickly try and sort of win the collateral, as it were. So it was pretty heavy going. But yeah, and that's kind of what I wanted to say. It's like we got that anchor grant from the governance pool, and that was amazing. And then built up that first that first beta product, and that was kind of the beginning of it, really, because that's when we realized, okay, hang on, we assume Anchor's going to grow. They're gonna look at stuff. Of course, that crash was a big reason for them to look at the contract. And yeah, from that point onwards, we basically started working alongside Anchor, which has been amazing, and that kind of led us to both teams, Anchor and Kujira, kind of putting our heads together and saying, okay, what it started with the contract, of course. It was like, what does this contract need to do? Like, what changes need to happen? And that has basically, I know there'll be more around this, but that has led us to where we are now, Kujira, with Orca, which is our first and flagship product. Yeah, I won't babble on anymore, but that's kind of been the history of where it started in the Lunatics community, and kind of how it sort of bubbled over to where it is now.
Yeah, no, I think that's it's really nice to kind of hear the journey that you guys have been through, especially kind of solving that kind of problem. And I guess kind of just to take a step back and check that I understand correctly, but also to allow others on the call to make sure they do as well.
Definitely.
What we're talking about here is what is now known as Orca, right? Which is the liquidation front end for Anchor, which allows anyone to liquidate contracts which are under collateralized on Anchor. And as I understand it, you guys kind of built this out months ago. I think it's worth pointing out, with all the hype around Columbus 5 and all the launches people are anticipating, like, you guys got out there, you delivered a product up front before Columbus 5, and you gave something that people could use. And I think that's, like, to me, that was really impressive. Like, you've now obviously developed with the new Anchor contracts and got version 2 out. But yeah, I guess as a whole, Kujira, you guys are kind of more than just Orca, but this is safe to say kind of your first flagship product, right?
Yeah, it is. And that's exactly right. I mean, at the risk of sounding cliche, we really are like serial builders. And I know that, as I say, it could sound a bit cliche, but it is the truth. Like, we really are in this to make killer products and to put put things in the hands of people that have historically been really tricky. That really is like our MO at its roots. It's like, okay, well, what happens with liquidations? Oh, it's 4 or 5 bots on the network. No, that doesn't work. In the spirit of crypto and all the rest of it, that doesn't work. So now, really digging deep and building something that allows literally anyone to come on, make a deposit, and kind of sit and wait. And I know I'm very confident that we're going to get to questions around the how money just sits in the pool and how it could be better used. But just for this very moment, I think it's a really good step. It's quite a big step, because it means that literally, like, the community are providing the collateral for liquidations, and they are gaining from them. Even though it's a nasty thing, nobody likes them. The problem is, if we don't do this, literally everything goes back into the hands of a handful of bots. And when that goes wrong, it's really bad. When those bots are just obviously controlled by humans who have some kind of capital, a bunch of UST. When that UST runs out, things go even more bad. So yeah, we'd like to think it's a really good step for Terra, I think, because it does stabilize the network. And of course, any part where it's genuine user participation over whales and bots is always a good thing.
No, that's great. I guess at a high level, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding things correctly. So I guess previously we had, obviously, before you guys had built anything, you had the only people who could access liquidations would be whales and people with bots and technical know-how. And these liquidations have always occurred. And basically the idea was kind of democratizing participation in this part of the network and giving people access to this. And as I understand it, at some point in time, there was also the opportunity for bots to front run kind of your initial app. But as I understand it now, you've kind of changed that, and now that bot issue is kind of out of the way. Could you perhaps explain, I guess, a little bit of how it works, and at a high level, how someone logging onto the app today could interact with it and what they'd actually be doing?
Yeah, totally. So I will take it from a very, very high level, just in layman's speak, and then if we want to go a bit deeper, then our smart contracts man, Mr. Code Hands, will be on hand. But so this is in its basic form. How it worked before was that the anchor contract was designed to simply be first come, first serve. Which is the liquidations queue, should I say, specifically the anchor liquidations queue or contract. There wasn't much else to it. It was basically like, when a loan goes bad, the first to the post who can target that loan, bring it down, and effectively gain at a premium. And actually, the premium was set at 30% before. I think it was one of those things where, obviously Anchor had a lot on. They're a savings protocol, and I think that the liquidation stuff, I don't want to say it caught them by surprise. They're extremely smart people. They know exactly what they're doing. But the reality ended up that I think the contract was very much a version 1, right? Which is understandable. And to be fair, a lot of other products and protocols on Terra at the moment that offer any kind of money market lending, etc., are still using that, dare I say, old method, because we believe this new method is better. But anyway, so how it worked before was it was very much just first come, first serve. So now you can imagine on a big liquidation event, when there's thousands of loans at literally tens of millions of value, when you've got a bot just scanning the network and sniping those, you're basically always going to win. And the beta product worked, but it would only work on very, very big dips, literally when the bots themselves were caught napping or ran out of funds and literally just couldn't carry on anymore. They'd basically burned, they'd made so much from it that they'd burned through all their UST. So that's what was happening. And so basically, without getting technical, that's all it was. It was like, okay, if you get there first, you have the first crack at it, and that basically is as simple as it was. What it is now is it's literally like an order book, right? So if a bot comes along, and I can kind of just looking at the UI for Orca now. If we look at the UI for Orca, what you have is obviously you've got the premiums that run from left to right, which is from 0 all the way through to 30%. And you could think of these as like buckets that are filled. And when there's a liquidation event, these buckets start getting emptied from left to right, so from 0% through to 30%. Obviously, the bigger the liquidation event, the more of these buckets that are going to get emptied out. And again, I don't want to get too technical. I'll leave that for the big brains. But that is in its simplest form how it works. Now, when you look at each individual pool, let's say, for example, the 5% pool. The 5% pool, we don't know, but we assume this is going to be quite a decent one. It'll probably get hits fairly often, and you're going to literally get Beluga at a 5% discount. That's basically what that means. Is if you get a bid that hits in a particular premium slot or bucket, that is quite literally the discount. The 5% premium means 5% discount on the Beluga asset, right? Which is great. And obviously, if it goes up to 10, 20, 30, those are going to be the really big events, which will happen. But we imagine people are going to play out strategies and probably spread it around and all the rest of it. But to get back to the bot question, let's say, Terranaut, you have a bot. You're one of, literally only 5 people that managed to pull that off because it's very complex. And I am just a regular user. And you come along with your fast bots and you quickly sneak a bid in at 5%. And I come along 2 hours later after my coffee and I put the exact same bid in for the exact same amount. How it works now is that all of the winnings, should I say, in that pool are distributed evenly regardless of who got there first. So that's already a really big step, right? There's no more, like, speed doesn't matter anymore. And another feature that Anchor have added to the contract, which of course we've represented on the front end, is that you need to wait 10 minutes after your bid to activate it, which helps us prevent bots from front running things as they're changing really quickly. So those are the two kind of key differences now. And I mean, I think it was proved the other day. There were a range of people getting. It was a small liquidation event. I don't have the stats in front of me, but a good few million. And I mean, we all had people DMing us saying, "Wow, this actually works. Like, we got Beluga at a 2 or 3% discount." So, it's pretty handy that it got put through its paces, and then Luna wasn't too damaged, and I think that was a good thing, just to at least show people, okay, Orca does what it says on the tin. But yeah, hopefully that gives a kind of layman's explanation as to how this contract and in turn our UI sort of handles these things.
Yeah. And
sorry, Seb.
Oh, sorry, Tom. I'm just going to jump in here and then talk about my personal experience. So, like, I was part of the few community members that helped, like, through the first iteration of the liquidation contract that you built, guys. And so, like, during the July crypto crash, like, we ran and started, like, to try to run those liquidation through the front end that you built. And then we had realized, that it was the first, like, the faster you would execute, and you would take all the prize, basically. So it was like a bot game. But we ended up in a situation, and I think it's interesting because it shows that what you're doing is important. At that time in July, we ended up in a situation where nobody was really willing to try to spin up a new bot or try to manually execute liquidation, because they knew that, like, there were a few sophisticated players that did that extremely well. But we ended up in a situation where at some point these bots ran out of funds or were not running at key critical moments. And we all realized that was going to be very difficult for Encore to be successful if this was going to be the case anytime we had, like, high volatility events. So I think, in my opinion, the evolution of the liquidation contract for Encore is going to be something that strengthens the whole ecosystem. That you're opening this up to the whole community, allowing everyone to be a part of this non-bot driven process is super great. And I think, like, there's a funny or interesting portion of Orca that's gonna play out also, is like, how do you strategize your bids on the platform. Like you're looking at what's the premium, what the premium that's the most bidded on, what are the other people, other users are doing on the platform, and just like make an informed decision based on that. So it's kind of interesting that how the liquidation game is evolving through what you're releasing, guy. Very excited about it.
Yeah, thank you, Seb. Yeah, and it actually, really appreciate that. And it actually brings us on to which again, I'm sure we will elaborate on in a bit. But remember, this is the beginning. And what we've spoken about internally is we will be, just within the Orca environment, we will be building, we'll provide the tools, right? And then people can create the strategy. So we've got, taking aside the, I say in inverted commas, issue that we have currently around, because it's the number one question, right? How come we can't earn 20% on anchor while the bids are sat in the pool? That is literally just a contract thing. It's just not possible with the liquidation contract. Not to say that it isn't possible to have some very smart, AI moving around and assuming control of the funds and all the rest of it. But as I'm sure everyone on here can imagine, that is quite a big undertaking. And the more data that we get off the new contract, the better tools we can make, the better smart tools that we can make. But literally for now, we will start by having, I'm looking at the dashboards in front of me now, if that's alpha. We're busy styling up a whole bunch of really nice graphs and history of liquidations, and a bunch of tools that are going to really start helping people make informed decisions. So as you say, Seb, like it's exciting for sure. And we will, I think, for now, we'll be providing as many tools as we possibly can to make the strategy a bit clearer for people. And hopefully in time that does become, something that is a bit more second nature. We understand, looking at this, and I mean, I'd like to think, obviously my partner Brett, who's done the designs, and all the UX stuff, has just done a fantastic job, because it's an incredibly difficult thing, to visualize, to go, okay, here's a raw contract, now turn that into a UI. So on top of that, on top of like a beautiful UI, we are literally just grinding away at tools that are going to help to make people have informed decisions on the platform. I mean, you could think about a kind of traffic light system, things like that, where we're going to, based on data, be able to say, hang on, we're going a bit orange here, guys, kind of similar to the beta version, I suppose. And on top of having a kind of traffic light system of, okay, based on data, we feel things are wobbling, you then also have all the analytics and the tools at your disposal to go, okay, well, where should I place my bid? Now, if the light is red, like, again, I'm speaking in layman terms, but if the light is red, okay, wow, and then I look at the analytics and the past stuff that's happened, I think, okay, I believe that 10% pool has got a good chance of being hit. So perhaps you will put the majority of your bid up there and then taper it back down towards 1%. But the strategy, to be perfectly honest, is something that we or Anchor don't even know how it will play out. It's fascinating to us to watch. There's no rules. It's like people get to kind of make up their own minds. But what we can do is provide the tools. That's the long and the short.
No, exactly. I think that's great. That's a pretty thorough answer there. And I guess, yeah. So at a high level as a user, I think it's, as you say, there's the kind of the two elements to the strategy. There's the strategy in terms of how I, as a user, where I put my UST, where I think it will be most profitable and most likely to hit. And then also, I guess, there's the strategy of like, can I use this as a hedge in volatile market conditions? Like, if I think, God forbid, no one hold this against me, Luna's hit a local top, and Bitcoin's going to come down, can I use my UST, and where can I best place this to get myself some discounted B Luna? Just got to pray that I'm not borrowing that UST from my own anchor loan.
well, exactly. Disclaimer.
Liquidate yourself.
Which you can technically do. Funny
enough,
but
it's all
interesting.
Good.
That's a super good point, and not to harp on, but the hedge thing is a very good point, and it's exactly that, right? And so to come back to the recurring question, not in this chat, but that we've had about the anchor deposits, and earning 20%. The idea going forward won't be that, you literally just leave it in there for a year, but we will do whatever we can to provide you with the tools to be able to, get in at a reasonable time and make those gains without literally. And then if you think about it, yes, we understand Anchor, what an amazing product. Like we all have, our savings in there, and it's growing. It's beautiful. 20% is unheard of. So that's amazing. But I guess it's important to bear in mind that if you have a strategy and you come in at the right time and you leave at the right time, for example, you could be making 10-20% like overnight rather than in a year. So I think that is just something to, I think, remember just when it comes back to that question. Of course, you can leave your UST in there, and we have some literal data from previous liquidations that shows that there's 5 to 6 big events in that year, and we knocked up a table, and we've shared it a few times. We need to make it look pretty, but we've had other stuff going on. But the point is that it shows you the premiums and the potential APRs, and it's significant. Like I don't want to sit here and say, oh, I promise you we can outdo X or Y protocols, but if you just want to look at the pure data, and if you want to say, okay, I'm a realist, like if there's been 5 to 6 big liquidation events in the year up until now, why wouldn't there be going forward? And I know that's another conversation to be had, but that's what I mean about sort of strategy and looking at these things from a historical point of view. Hopefully when those stats are out and public on Orca, it will also make people realize that, hang on, there is actually very good gains to be made, even if you were to just have your money sitting in there. But yeah.
No, exactly. I think it's great. And I guess the summary point, like for me as a user, is what I like so much about DeFi is kind of the gamified element of it, the strategies that we as users come up with of how best to utilize our capital. And for me, like we're seeing a lot of products coming into Terra, which are all gonna play their part in that. And for me, the first product that you guys are launching, Orca, is obviously a big part of that. Is where do people deploy their UST? When do they do it? And what are the benefits of it? And what are the opportunity costs? And I guess that's kind of what's being built by a lot of dApps. And as a user, I find that really engaging, really interesting. And yeah, I definitely am excited to kind of start playing around a bit more with Orca, I think, moving forward.
Yeah, cheers, man. And I agree with you. It's super exciting. We love what all the other protocols are doing. We often get questions around, oh, but what about them and what about these guys? It's like you hit the nail on the head. We're all playing our parts in different sectors of the market. And yes, there are other guys that are talking about doing liquidations. And we say, like, hats off, really. There's only going to be a growing amount of assets coming onto Terra, and B assets in particular when it comes to our applications, or Orca in particular. So, we really believe that the volume coming through is going to outweigh, oh, but maybe that guy takes a small corner of the liquidations market. You know what I mean? Like, so we can very much all exist together, which is even more exciting for us, to be honest. Like, we really don't feel like it's a big competition. I think Terra protocols have existed pretty peacefully together up until now. It's only ever strengthened the case for Terra, for Luna. Doe himself is amazing. Like he's given us tons of advice, and often when we have people like Ryan Park, Doe, often sometimes we'll get a bit spooked. Oh, we've got 20 questions, the same question about whether it's Nexus or whoever. And we put it to these guys, and they always just are like, don't worry. Like, what you're doing, you're on the right track. Like, it's good for, like, you know what I mean. It's nothing's going to be majorly derailed. So, yeah. I don't know. I think I went off on a tangent, but I think the basic point was that no, you're 100% right. A lot of good protocols, and we can all exist together.
Yeah, the Terra tangent where you end up just speaking about how good the community is.
Totally.
I've been down that rabbit hole a few times.
Hard to avoid, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess from here, so like, I guess I really want to be clear for people on this call if they don't know that, like, Orca is this first product that you guys are building, but Kujira itself is kind of, I mean, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but I guess like a really community-driven project where you guys are looking to build the tools that will help users strategize and interact with Terra in a better way moving forward.
Totally, and that's all. That'll be across all our dApps and products that we create. By the way, that'll always be the goal. I mean, it's probably a good little segue into Beluga. I know that it's in our light paper, but you know, another instance where and listen, often these things are brought up by stuff that we need. So I sort of thought, like, you know, well, hang on, as a team, you know, we've got allocations of Kuji coming in, and we need to distribute them for, you know, for all the stuff that we need for marketing, and you know, you can imagine all the different things that a company needs just to run. And then thinking, well, hang on, like, this is a bit crazy. You know, I've spoken to even TFL themselves have this issue where, you know, they need to like spread funds around sometimes, you know, for various reasons. And even TFL themselves are sitting on their own Terra station, individually hacking away at each separate transaction. So we feel like it's a really exciting little angle to be able to send funds to multiple places with one TX. It saves a ton, besides the fact that it saves a ton of UST. It's just it's a time saver, and I think obviously for companies that's key, but for regular users as well. You know, I think it's a good thing that teams are banding together, and you know, there's so many different reasons why you'd need to be sending these exciting TW20 coins around, and yeah, so again, born out of a real use case. Something that we think, okay, again, someone could do that probably, but they'd need a bot and they'd need to be working on a command line and all the rest of it. But why not just give people a nice UI to use and make it happen? And we're super fortunate to have, you know, to have James and Luke, who are you know, big techies who I'm sure we'll hear from in a bit, and of course, you know, Brett just on the UI side. My name's Dave. Happy to, you know, just swap one letter there. But yeah, that's kind of our MO. So we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, so I guess if we just take pause for breath a little bit there, I'll kind of perhaps outline a couple of different things we can talk about next. I think the very nature of what you guys are doing means there's so many topics to cover, really, because you've really got your hands in every pie. But just to like confirm, yeah, so Beluga essentially is the next kind of product you guys are building after Orca, and that's going to allow users to send multiple transactions for a very cheap fee from one wallet, correct? Or have I got that wrong?
No, exactly that, or from a contract itself. Even. Yeah. So that, you know, that's kind of the key, and I've personally got a feeling that, you know, that's going to open up a lot of exciting things that probably we don't even really know yet. But again, you know, just like let's like build some tools that really help people do stuff that's complicated. And then, excuse me, of course, leading on to the token, you know, it makes sense, like for people that are behind Kujira, it makes sense for us to be stabilizing the token, right? Because people that are using our products probably, you know about us and are more than likely going to be holding the token, and, you know, just introducing more use cases. It's not just to pump the token. It's like, well, why not? You know, if we can save people commission and money and time all in one, and the Kuji token is being utilized, and, you know, we're taking those profits and, you know, basically literally using them to stabilize the token itself, it just makes sense. I guess it's a little bit, I mean, dare I say it, it's a little bit more like, I guess, the Lunar angle than, you know, just one specific protocol with one use case. So yeah, we'd like to think that we're going to give the Kuji token a lot of runway, you know, and just a lot of room to live, I guess, and breathe, because it's going to be used in all these apps, and in a real world way, not like, you know, burn this to do that. It's going to actually just be, which is all fine, you know, and that's all great. But for us, we're just trying to keep it practical.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Oh, sorry, Seb.
Sorry, I was just going to make a recap. So because maybe not everybody is really familiar with how the Kuji token is powering the platform, basically. So with Kujira releasing Orca, you're basically going to be having a method for triggering liquidations on Encore whenever like collateral is at risk, right?
Yeah.
A percentage of the liquidated collateral value will accrue or will be collected by Orca in the back end and accrue to the Kuji token, right? So that's one way where token holders will be receiving value from the protocol running on its own, right?
100%.
So we'll talk about probably like the TG a little bit later on, but like moving on to Beluga. So this tool to allow you to disperse funds to multiple addresses in one single transaction by saving on the transaction fees that you would otherwise pay on the Terra chain. You'll be able to, in order to make that transaction run, like pay a small fee in Kuji that would be less than your overall transaction fees if you were running them automatically.
Like flawless, yeah.
And expanding beyond that, you've mentioned that you've hinted at like several things here and there. Like I've written down that like you're gonna build up like, you know, predictive data modeling for Orca to allow stakers of Kuji to get like maybe additional or some kind of intelligence, some kind of intel on how to trigger or place their bits better, or when to act on Encore liquidation. I don't know if you want to say something a little bit about that, and maybe, you know, talking about how do you see maybe Orca expanding and working on other Terra protocols? Like, did you have something on mind on that, or maybe also like possibly outside of Terra?
It's a very good question. So to the first one, well, I'm just trying to think. So basically, we have. Sorry, guys, I'm going off there.
No, we can hear you. No worries.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, well, I'll start with the second one. In terms of the cross chain, there are huge opportunities there for sure. So we have, aside from cross chain, even within Terra itself, we have started some conversations with quite a few of the protocols actually, and any protocol in Terra, if we start there, that offers any kind of money markets, where there's any kind of, you know, leverage or lending, for example, there's a clear use case for Orca to be able to say, well, you know, why not add those markets to Orca? Because teams could do it. I guess they could do it on their own, which is perfectly fine. But it is quite a big undertaking, you know. And again, I think being first to market, there is something to be said for that, because, you know, we've been doing this for so long now. We've been honed in on this one specific thing. Although we have other products, of course, with the liquidations in particular, we've been there right from the beginning. And it's really, really helpful when you have an intrinsic knowledge of one specific thing. So other Terra protocols, for sure, like, I mean, I don't want to say it's guaranteed, but I can say it's pretty much 99% guaranteed that we will be certainly working with other protocols. And there's a lot, actually. There's potentially more than people realize that are coming out with various lending strategies. So yeah. If you could remind me the first question.
That's great. Yeah, I was talking about like maybe the evolutions of Orca. So down the line, what can people expect to see added up to Orca functionalities? And then like you started to touch on expanding Kujira or Orca on Terra, but like also cross-gen probably.
Yeah, you mentioned actually, sorry, now I remember, you mentioned what we would be doing with well, so if we want to go to cross chain, basically, again, there are massive opportunities there, and all that is required for us is to basically go in, get an understanding of the contracts, and then, I mean, my feeling and the team's feeling is that I think it's always got to start with the contract, right? If people are going the method that Anchor did before, then it's very tricky, of course, because it's going to be bot dominated. But we have an opportunity now to actually go to these protocols on like literally anywhere. It doesn't matter, cross-platform. It could be any chain, and actually have that conversation with them and say, we've seen this now. We've seen it happen with Anchor, and we can tell you that we saw the benefits of moving to this type of contract. Absolutely. So so that's very, very exciting, we feel, because we can basically consult with these teams exactly like we did with Anchor, and actually be the catalyst for them to change and do something different. And then as soon as they have a more order book style of contracts, much like Anchor does now, it literally just plays into the hands of a product like Orca, because I mean, I don't want to speak for James here, and I don't want to say it's easy, but the way we've built it is that it's pretty easy in technical terms to kind of make a switch if the parameters are similar. In terms of other assets coming along, it's instant. Like we've built it in such a way that any new assets on Terra themselves are instant. And as I say, if the contracts are designed in the right way, we can do anything. And then to your points about things like staking Kuji to gain extra functionality, we're really thinking hard on that one. I don't want to say too much, just because you can run into the issue of kind of looking like you're trying to be for whales when that's not really the case. So we have a tricky balance here to achieve, and that is to make the token stable and hopefully grow. Of course, I can't speculate on that, but what we can do is help the token be stable at very least, which we can achieve. And if people are staking and with us for the long term, that helps. But then on the flip side of that, we want to be a little bit careful of saying, oh, okay, well, basically you need to have a whole ton of Kuji stakes in order to, and then it kind of looks like we're shutting out the smaller guys. So we're working on different strategies, and hopefully, and we'll be listening to the community to see what they think as well, and think what they think is fair.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, that's great, Dave. I guess so. I'm going to keep doing this because I want to make sure on a personal level that I understand everything you guys have going on. So I'm not sure if it's any other benefit to anyone else, but you'll have to put up with me saying it. But yeah, so basically, you guys, Kujira, you've currently built Orca, so that's going to be our liquidations kind of platform with Anchor. Beluga is your next product, and kind of moving forward, you're going to be looking at the ability to go cross-chain or consult cross-chain with Orca in your liquidations, and then also in the future incorporating, I guess, as you said, quite easily or instantaneously, other B assets on Anchor, I assume, but then other lending protocols or markets on Terra as and when they pop up.
Totally.
Great.
Nailed it.
Yeah. And moving forwards, I guess you guys are also, as you've mentioned, and I've had a few chats with you about this, kind of looking to build various tools as and when you can. And I guess you could really say that Kuji and Kujira is trying to build a little ecosystem within an ecosystem of tooling. You're kind of building your own little tooling world within Terra to kind of really benefit users and provide them kind of new functionality and opportunities.
That's it, mate. Exactly. That's our MO. We're trying to stick to that, and I think it makes sense when there's a need. We're happy to listen to the community. If let us know. Pop into our chats. If you guys think there's something that really needs doing that falls in line with our MO and our ethos and everything, then why not? That's really what we want to be doing.
That's great. I guess from here, then probably the final thing from me would be maybe perhaps for us to kind of touch on the TG and the launch of the Kuji token upcoming, and also just want to mention, because I know we've got them on the call, as you mentioned, your GigaBrain friends behind the scenes who I've heard nothing but amazing things about. If any of you guys kind of want to jump in and add on to anything we've said, please do. And if not, we'll also be opening up the floor to questions from the audience. So yeah, I guess probably just let's have a little chat about the launch first.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, awesome. So before we do that, like just to intro, I was hoping to do that in the beginning, but I know we were kind of waiting on people. Not to speak for the guys, but we agreed that I would kind of do this. Otherwise, you start talking over each other. But so I'm Dave. I, on Twitter, I've called myself a mover and a shaker. I think it kind of sums it up. Background is as a UI dev and a kind of biz dev person. But yeah, I tend to just do whatever else needs doing these days. Brett is our UI UX lead and master of coin. He's basically sorted all of our numbers, which has been a massive task. And obviously there's a lot that goes into that, and a lot of consulting and all the rest of it. But yeah, we're super proud of that. James, I mean, I think lead smart contract dev, full stack, just genius. I mean, I think goes without saying, it's not an easy thing that he's had to pull off here. It's actually super, and obviously between the team, graphically representing it as well as technically, it's been amazing. And then we've got Luke, who handles our DevOps, and he's also just a full stack ninja. Full stack, for anyone that doesn't know, basically means, in layman's terms, that you're equally comfortable with back end and front end work. So I think we are really lucky to have this kind of mix of skills, and we do have other members on the team. I think a few of them are listening in, but we're obviously, because we're the speakers for now, we're and the sort of core group. But we've got help from other amazing team members as well, who will just probably keep sort of undoxed for now, shall we say?
All good. And
but on the TGE, so
sorry, Dev.
Yeah, no. So I realized I needed to answer that second part on the TGE. Yeah, I mean, super exciting, crazy. It's all happening really fast. We decided to go fast on purpose. So we didn't want to just be waiting around. TGE on Friday. We'll confirm the time. I mean, we're flying by the seat of our pants in that regard. But everything's going to plan. We're going to have our own staking portal, vesting for people that got in, at early on, our own swap, which we would really advise using. Obviously, people that are savvy and can look up contract addresses and all that, and feel safe going straight to TerraSwap. That's more than fine. But of course, you get bad actors out there, and they could easily spin up a Kuji token on the day, and we really don't want people to get rinsed. So the reason we're saying come to us is not because we literally don't make any fees. Those are network fees that go to Terra. It's not about that. If you come to a page on our site and you're trading Kuji, UST for Kuji or vice versa, I mean, it goes without saying that we're going to have the correct addresses and all that in there. But yeah, Friday it comes. The IDO, I believe, just finished on Star Terra, actually, funny enough, in 3 minutes. That went incredibly well. Like, yeah, not even sure what to say. We're blown away, to be honest, and just really, really humbled, I think, by the support we've got. So yeah, onwards and upwards. We're actually speaking to some, really like guys high up in Terra to get some advice. Obviously we want the launch to go smoothly. We don't want any bad stuff happening there. So yeah, we're getting some really, really good advice around that. But yeah, Friday it's game on.
Nah, good stuff. Exciting times. And yeah, I mean, I've seen the numbers with Star Terra. Firstly, that you guys, I think, are giving a really large allocation to the community, which I think is great. Like, you're raising a lot. And I know that you've also you rewarded some of your early community members via the IDO as well. I think if I'm correct in thinking.
Yeah. So what we did, and we're really glad we did it, actually. I think our Telegram group had 1,000 odd, maybe just over people in it, and we decided to lock it down and give them all an opportunity to get on what we just called an early bird whitelist, right? Because there's people in there, the majority of them at the time had been in there, God knows how long. But again, in crypto years, like generations kind of thing. So, you know, we wanted to desperately support and help the people that have been there from day one. So we locked down the Telegram group. We did a bunch of pin messages, even a tweet, you know, just to make sure that people outside, obviously when you pin a message, it alerts everyone. So we just, I think it was a period of maybe a week or so where we just made sure as many people as possible got on that. And yeah, we ended up locking that down. And now what we have, and we fully understand, it's disappointing for new people. We're so grateful that, I don't know, there's 3,500 people now, you know, but I think what it's done is people could see, you know, that we were in it like for the right reason. We were genuinely trying to help out the early supporters, and I think it's resulted in a really happy environment and culture that we have going now, which we're super proud of, by the way. Like that's one thing we really value more than just growing numbers on Twitter and stuff, is actually the fact that the community, that like people don't really get crazy in there. Everyone's respectful, and people help each other. So yeah, I believe that all had something to do with it. But yeah, then the Starterra raise, you know, we had the highest, you know, one of the highest raises for that very reason, to try, you know, because there was obviously, understandably, people were getting a little bit upset, like getting just very, very tiny numbers. So that was the reason why we thought, okay, let's just go with one. Aside from the fact the Starterra guys have been fantastic, by the way, just work super hard, and they've just at every turn they've really been super helpful. So aside from that, going in with a higher number, trying to get people bigger allocations, but somewhat ironically now there's more deposits than ever before on the platform. So we're hoping that we don't get too much backlash from that, because that's obviously a bit out of our control. But yeah, super exciting and incredible that actually happened.
No, I think that's great. And yeah, I think on your early bird stuff, like, I think what's really interesting about Kujira is because you guys had a product out before many other people, and you had essentially an open beta to the community for months.
Yeah,
you really did actually have early engagement. And I've been in the Telegram, not as active as I probably should be, because I've got about 500 groups popping off everywhere, usually telling me to buy a shit coin on Binance Smart Chain. But you know,
let's not get into your degen activities.
exactly. But yeah, every time I've been in, like, as you say, I think it's been a really interesting group, because you really do have a lot of early users who kind of use the platform in July, have benefited from it, have given feedback on it, and have been really supportive. And I think that's kind of also representative of what you guys have been building and how you've interacted. So, like, from my perspective, I think it's probably actually quite a unique case of a community in Terra so far, just because of the fact you guys had that product out early, and you had people able to use it in an open manner, give their feedback. And I imagine you've probably got quite a few people who've stuck around for the last few months, and yeah, will feel quite connected to the project, and vice versa. Big
time. Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it's been very special. And we have had comments from multiple people about the community, which is great. Like, we've worked hard on that, you know. It doesn't just happen, but yeah, it goes, like, I think it goes to show that if you spend the right time there, you know, it can be a bit frustrating when you're in a group and it just feels like a ghost town. And yeah, it's frustrating when you get the same question over and over again, but in the same breath, that's your business, right? Like, it beats not saying something and just having people wondering. So yeah, cheers, man. I appreciate that. But yeah, it's something we've worked on. Yeah.
And I think your products also are speaking for themselves. Like, the Kujira Orca is the result of, like, you know, us learning how to deal and interact with Anchor. And I think what you said earlier resonates with me a little bit. Like, the fact that, like, if peoples are really working on, or projects are really working on speeding up a money market on Terra or outside of Terra, there's a lot of learnings that, like, we can bring as a community, but you also as a super team that built up on Terra as well, that you can bring in the mix, try to help people understand that there's only advantages to run your liquidation in such a way that you're providing the community, the funds, the decentralization needed to keep the strength of the money market, and also like you're providing also better user experience eventually for not only the liquidators but also the people depositing on those money markets, because the fact of being liquidated can be hurtful when you're actually having a lot of people competing for max premium whenever the execution is triggered.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool. It's positive for everyone. It's going in the right direction, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, it's a good point. That funny enough, Orca is actually. I like what you said there. It's kind of it's a sort of learning gateway or portal to actually Anchor, really, which is interesting. You know, it's sort of like we've made a graphical representation of what needs to happen on the Anchor side. So yeah, that is a good. I like that. It's kind of like we're learning about Anchor here, and ultimately we'll learn about many other money markets, whether they're in Terra or outside.
Great. I think just in the interest of time, I think probably you and I, Dev, could probably talk for another 6 hours.
Yeah, we don't want to bore them.
Yeah, we'd never have a problem with that, would we?
No.
But yeah, I think just in the interest of time, it'd be great if we could probably open up the floor to anyone. So yeah, if anyone in the audience has any questions about anything we've spoken about today, so the token itself, Orca, any of the upcoming products, just please put in a request to speak, and we'll bring you on up. Just give people a minute or two.
No worries.
Also, just wanted to maybe take the moment to say as well, if anyone else on the Kujira team wanted to chime in with anything, I appreciate you guys are all on the call here. So if there's anything you guys wanted to mention, please do.
I think Dave's done a pretty good job speaking for us all.
Sorry, mate.
No, it's been good.
Yeah, I think we figured that if people want to, ask some of the heavy questions, and we have the right members in here to do that.
I think Ralph, you had a question, right?
Hey, Ralph,
you're on mute, sir.
Ralph, you're now on mute. If you just try and take that off. Oh, okay, we lost him.
Oh, he's gone.
Yeah, it's always a bit of a nightmare, I think.
A bit daunting as well, I guess.
Yeah, we're very intimidating people, Dev.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh dear. So yeah, please do just put a hand up. If not, Seb, was there anything you wanted to cover?
I had a couple of questions, but I don't want to monopolize. But I see Ivan is asking something.
Oh, we've got a couple coming up now. There we go. It's always a nightmare.
Hi, am I on?
Yeah, hi, Evan.
Hey, how's it going? I had a question for the Kujira team. I kind of came in a little bit late on this thing because it's early where I am. I've been playing around a little bit with the interface. Are you guys going to have tools to be able to see like total leverage on Anchor by account and kind of be able to monitor when leverage gets high, so that you can sort of better time your bidding process? You spoke a little bit about like an order book, but I hadn't seen it on the interface, and I was kind of curious where that's going.
No worries, Brett or James. Do you want to? Because I did a very layman explanation, Evan, but it's a good point. Maybe we could segue into a little bit more detail around what we have planned there.
I'll chat about that. So what we've got planned with all the data that we're getting in with, loans that we can see through Anchor is that we can visualize when loans are becoming at risk. So you're going to be able to kind of visually see a weighted view of everything that's on loan and how at risk these things are. And then just to sort of drop a little bit of alpha to simulate market conditions. So be able to drop down the currently Luna or Ether price and see how that's going to affect the market, what pools are going to get hit, you know, how much sort of liquidation is going to happen and how much collateral is going to be sold. So I think Dave said it earlier a few times that we're going to provide a lot of tools for people to use. And we hope that these tools are going to be able to help people create their own strategies of how they're going to do this rather than try and automate everything. Yeah, so to directly answer your question, 100%, we're going to visualize all those things for you guys.
Awesome. That's amazing. Thank you.
Cool.
Great. Cheers, Evan. I think have we also got, is it Capricious Sage?
Hey, yes. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, all good. Go ahead.
Awesome. So if I understand correctly, with every man and his dog asking the whole, what about anchor yields whilst it's deposited, with it being a requirement that the UST itself is locked up in the smart contract for the bid, would it be possible for Anchor to essentially, like for a governance vote on Anchor to open up that smart contract to allow the bidding in a UST?
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that can be put to a vote within Anchor itself. It would obviously require a rewrite of their contract. The actual contract that the liquidated assets go to, where they get bid on, needs that UST locked up because they have to sell it as it hits that contract, basically. But it's definitely something that, as a community, you guys should take to Anchor and you know, request a governance vote on, because it obviously opens up a lot of opportunity. There's obviously a lot of caveats that come with that too. The whole way that Anchor works as a product may, you know, the actual rules that govern it might not be able to work with the APY that they offer, with the liquidations and such like that. But yeah, I mean, as a Terra community, I think opening up those conversations with everybody is a pretty good shout.
Yeah, because I just sort of thought that if you were able to just put in, say, 100 AUST as your bid, just the value of that bid would appreciate over time. The contract wouldn't have to be changed or anything as far as increasing your bid, because you're just the bid amount, it's just worth more. So you're essentially just growing that over time. So you kind of, your anchor yield goes towards growing your bid position, as it were.
Yeah, James, I don't know if you have more technical thoughts on that from an actual smart contract point of view. If there's anything you want to add there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've had a sort of nod from some people at Anchor that suggest it's possible, but fundamentally all the contracts are written to operate with a single stable coin, which is UST. Obviously, multi-collaterals are all supported across all these contracts, but it would be it would need a rewrite in more than just the liquidations contract to support it. So yeah, I don't think there's anything. There are no fundamentals preventing it. There's just a lot of legwork.
But that's a great question though, and maybe like if like changing the asset that is denominated in those bits is not possible anywhere else than just doing an anchor change at the anchor level. Like, is it something that you guys are considering to maybe look at like the probability of execution of a bid, and maybe, you know, for bids that are in the 50%, 16 to 30% slots that are less likely to execute on the short term, maybe try to extract a portion of those bids rather than like locking it into the liquidation contract, like have it earning a yield on anchor, and maybe like moving it to the in a bid if you're seeing like movements on the market that would eventually trigger liquidations to such a point where those 15% up to 30% bids would be triggered. Is it something that you guys have considered?
Yeah, you know, like we've got a lot of analytics tools coming in the pipeline. nobody can predict the future. Nobody can tell you what the price drop tomorrow is going to be or the week after. But what we can do is show you charts. Like one that we're kicking around at the moment looks a bit like a depth chart you get on Binance or wherever, and you can see you can see the loans that are right there at 59, 58%, all the way up to 1, 2, 3, 4% LTV, and then you can make some kind of guess yourself. Combine it with previous liquidation data, which will also be providing to come up with some kind of strategy to help you maximize your returns.
Cool.
Yeah, I guess just to add to that, sorry, I think, we have been discussing this previously in terms of how we would use AI and, previous models and analytics to predict when would be a sort of opportune moments to move people's bids back from Anchor if we were to put them in Anchor back into the bids. It also carries a lot of risk for Anchor, for us, and the community. So it's something that we have considered. We haven't made any firm decisions on it as yet. Again, to iterate the point of creating tools for the community to create their own strategies, that is our sort of base ethos. So yeah, it's definitely in consideration, but for now, I think the wealth of tools that we create is the main focus, and if we can nail down that interest on bids sitting in a loan, then it's a no-brainer. It really incentivizes people to put money in those bids. But yeah, we can't really confirm or deny that it's possible or ideal, I suppose.
All right, fair.
Great. Well, I think that might be everyone, and I think just also in the interest of time, might be a good idea to try and wrap up around here, unless we got. Oh, do you want to do, Dove? You guys good to do one more question?
Yeah, of course. No worries.
All right, we'll just get C. Mohammed up here. Let's see if I can speaker. Great. We'll just do this one last question then. Hi, C. Mohammed. Can you hear us? You're on mute if you're talking.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect.
Thank you all for this amazing project. It's really amazing. But I do have a question about the APR calculation that has been provided before. So just correct me if I'm wrong. So if I put my UST, for example, to be available for liquidation, so the maximum IPR I'm getting is the premium on the collateral that I'm going to be liquidated. So for example, if I put 5% premium, so the APR I'm getting is most likely to be the maximum is 5%, unless the collateral is getting value over time.
Yeah, James, I don't know. Do you want to maybe go into a bit more detail around this?
Sorry, could you just repeat the question again?
I'm just trying to understand the APR calculation. So if I'm putting my UST available for liquidation for a certain amount of time, so the APR I'm getting about that is just the premium I am getting into the pool into. For example, if I choose to liquidate collateral as 5% premium, so the APR I'm getting is not going to be more than 5% on that if the liquidation happens and if my UST is being used to be liquidated. So is I am understanding this right?
Yeah. Are you referring to the sort of the matrix screenshot that was shared as sort of a sneak peek sort of thing? Right.
Or just in general? I think the short answer is yes. That it would be the 5%. But I just didn't know if people wanted us to maybe expand on exactly how that works and in the background, because it, we had that Medium article which tried to sum up a scenario, but it's still sort of a weird concept, right?
Okay, so if I am into, like, for example, 10% pool, all the premium, all the UST should be consumed before it go to my 15% if I sit in, like, in the 15% tool. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Perfect, thanks. Hisoka, did you have a question?
Yeah. Hey guys.
Hi, Ian.
So I think one of the things that interests me about the project and just potential of the token is, like, it seems to accumulate the most value during times of volatility, especially downward volatility. So I heard some people talking about this project potentially being a hedge or doing well during down markets. Like, have you guys thought about the relationship between the protocol kind of activity and the token value during downturns or during bear markets?
Yeah, we have. There's one of those weird things that we're not really meant to kind of say, but safe to say, of course, the mechanism that we have, as you say, volatility, but mainly downward, is going to mean that we will technically just be buying up more Kuji. So I guess without having to say anything direct, I think everyone can, make up their minds about what they think would happen. Of course, you're going to get a combination of sentiments as well as reality, right? Like with any market, but certainly on the reality side of things, what you're saying sounds pretty solid, and we like to call it stability, because that's to us what it would be. So yeah, I mean, theoretically, that's what's going to be happening. When there's more profit on Orca, that's going to be going back into the token. So yeah, probably can't say much more than that.
Sweet. Thank you. I think we'll probably, as I mentioned, try to wrap up there. Pretty sure you guys have got stuff going on now as well. So yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, thank you guys for your time today, and to be honest, for what you've been building on Terra, because yeah, as someone who's kind of watched you go over the last year or so, it's been really amazing, and yeah, just best of luck with the launch of the token and everything you're doing going forward. Definitely be a full supporter, and yeah, really excited to see what's coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you.
Thanks, mate. That's great.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks,
Great
guys.
to talk to you.
Have a good
Great.
day.
Cheers. Thanks everyone
Cheers,
for checking in. Right, speak to you later.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks, guys.